everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Muriel, and today I'd like to share my thoughts about a couple of stupendously bad movie adaptations, one video game to movie, the other book to movie, I watched in the first half of the year. Return to Silent Hill, and yes, I did. Wuthering Heights. Because I like to torture myself for the crack, apparently. And I'll start with Return to Silent Hill. So, why did I bother watching it, you may ask? Well, Silent Hill 2 and the original lore of the Silent Hill games more broadly stand as video game favorites of mine. Full disclosure though, I never actually finished the game, so Silent Hill 2, back in the day when I played it. Guess I was a little too stressed playing it as a 15-year-old horror noob. I still own my physical copy though. In fact, it's one of the very few PS2 games I still own, and let me tell you, I'm never letting go of it. Still, I played a decent chunk of it, and was so fascinated by the lore of Silent Hill, I developed a bit of a hyperfixation on it. It also holds a special place in my heart because reading about its story, its world-building and theming, made me realize video games could indeed be works of art, just like works of literature, music, and cinema. That was also probably the first time I ever became properly invested in a work of horror fiction specifically, though I have obviously become a lot more experienced and comfortable with horror as a genre since then. In literature, cinema, and video games, and so last year I played Silent Hill F, streamed a lot of it on Twitch. You can find the VODs for it on my gaming channel if you're interested, but let's just say I wasn't the biggest fan of it. That being said, I may just play the next one, which is coming out in September, I'm pretty sure, if only because it's set in Scotland. I'm just kind of intrigued by that. I've also seen the first two Silent Hill movies. The first one, which kinda adapts the first Silent Hill game, actually helped me, and this might be mildly controversial, to become enamored with the franchise and its lore alongside Silent Hill 2, the video game. I don't have the freshest memory of it by any means, and might very well find it the hottest of hot garbage were I to rewatch it now, but I remember thinking it was pretty neat, and certainly interesting in terms of lore when I was 15 years old. It certainly kept me up thinking about it at 2 a.m. Because yes, I caught it on television at like midnight, I think it was. And, well, it has Pyramid Head in it. Yes, we're all agreed he should not be in a movie adapting Silent Hill 1, but look, it's Pyramid Head. It's my beautiful boy! So I can't be too mad about that. Plus, I'd argue he's less ridiculous in that movie than in the second Silent Hill movie, so Silent Hill Revelation, which kinda adapts the third Silent Hill game, and which I saw in the movie theater when I was 20 years old, believe it or not. By that point, I'd say I'd matured and become experienced enough as a fiction and horror reader, in the broadest sense of the words, to appreciate how bad it was. Mostly, though, I'm pretty sure I thought it was just kind of goofy. So when I learned Christoph Gans, the guy who made the first Silent Hill movie, had made a new one, purportedly adapting Silent Hill 2, the one he actually wanted to adapt originally, apparently, I instantly predicted it would be bad. Again, I enjoyed the first one when I saw it as a teenager, but I also know it's not like, a good horror movie and certainly not a good adaptation, and also instantly knew I would have to watch it whenever it came out to see the actual extent of the carnage. Since I like to think I'm generally a good sport and always ready to give credit where it's due, I'll start with some positives, or rather with the positive, singular, which is that Return to Silent Hill was so bad, in a way that was so goofy, nonsensical, yet also strangely earnest, at least that's how it felt to me, that it basically looped right back around to being kind of enjoyable at times. So, a bad good movie, if you will, for the most part, because there's a bit of a caveat to this I'll come back to. But I'd be lying if I said this was the worst thing I'd ever watched, because it wasn't, and the simple fact is, this train wreck of a movie made me chuckle a few times. There's something just, stupidly funny about seeing James Sunderland driving a convertible down the highway with sunglasses on his face and a joint in his mouth. Because he's a cool guy and an artist in this, I'll be nice and say, version of the story you see. Or about the movie's ridiculous PowerPoint-style title card. That also gave me Rings of Power flashbacks, so fuck that. There's something very dumb, but also kind of fun about seeing my precious boy, Pyramid Head, go head to many toes, in this case with a corpse spider monster thing. And about the utterly unsubtle way the movie shows us Pyramid Head is... Guys, look, guys, did you know he's actually a supernatural manifestation of James' psyche? Because it's literally James' face under the metal pyramid helmet. Whoosh. And then I don't know about anyone else, but I couldn't help but laugh at how cheap the production looked. The lighting, the costumes, the CGI, none of it was terrible, but it all looked like, well, an elaborate cosplay with CGI, sure, but not like I was watching a story actually set in Silent Hill, if that makes sense. And obviously that on its own isn't a positive in the slightest, but paired with everything else, well, yeah, again, I just had to laugh. Still, there's no getting around the fact this movie was also just, plain bad. And I mean really bad. Like, nothing about it works. It looks cheap, its acting is mediocre. It also does that whole 4 characters in one thing, because all of Silent Hill 2's female characters are actually Mary, and are thus played by the same actress, wearing different wigs and outfits. It's goofy when, Silent Hill 2's story is what I'd call pretty serious, not exactly jolly, and it tackles pretty difficult themes, and does it well, which is part of the reason I love it. It obviously betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of the source material beyond any potential appeal to death of the author, because how in the hell can you engage with Silent Hill 2's story and character work and conclude James Sunderland is not only its protagonist, he is its protagonist, but its hero? That's a bit beyond me, not gonna lie. And then the movie's just utterly nonsensical from a narrative standpoint. So much so, it kind of begs the question, who the fuck was it even made for? It certainly wasn't made for Silent Hill 2 fans, or even lovers of the games and their lore in general, because of, well, everything I've already mentioned. It genuinely feels like Christoph Gans took the plot, characters, and world-building of Silent Hill 2, shoved it all in a blender, haphazardly sprinkled out the resulting confetti onto a blank page, then made that the plot outline for Return to Silent Hill. Because sure, there are scenes, plot, and character beats taken straight from the game in this movie, but the way they're all cobbled together doesn't make a lick of narrative sense. But then I don't think it would really make any lick of narrative sense for someone who knows nothing about Silent Hill 2 or the broader Silent Hill franchise, because the movie still obviously relies on plot, character, and world-building elements taken from the game. So I wouldn't say Return to Silent Hill was made for non-fans either. But hey, like I said, the fact it was so nonsensical means it was also kind of mildly enjoyable to watch at times, in a what the fuck is going on here sort of way. Though, like I also mentioned earlier, there is a caveat to this, which is that the movie doesn't handle Angela's character and storyline with the care and sensitivity it needs and deserves. As someone who was very moved by, not to say triggered, and related to her story pretty strongly, I found Return to Silent Hill's treatment of it rather gross, if not a little offensive. But then, what you gonna do? Besides, I don't think Christoph Gans meant to be offensive with it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. In a way, I think it all probably made sense in his head, because again, the movie felt weirdly earnest, and I guess I can kind of respect that. So whilst Return to Silent Hill was undoubtedly a bad, with a capital B, movie. I mean, yeah. It was also, overall, an interesting ride, shall we say, that I probably won't take again anytime soon, if ever, mind you, but it could have been worse. Yeah, it could have been worse, and certainly a lot more boring. Which brings me to our next train wreck, the Wuthering Heights movie. So, why did I bother with this one? The question must be asked because initially I honestly wasn't going to. Then again, I did put myself through Rings of Power, so clearly I am a bit of a masochist when it comes to cinematic adaptations. I kinda know will make me want to off myself. In Minecraft, of course. Because yes, Emerald Fennell's movie is hot garbage. But look it, I bothered to watch her first two movies, neither of which I liked. Saltburn was insanely mediocre, Promising Young Woman was mildly offensive to me, and one of the most tonally fucked, specifically, movies I've ever seen. And a twisted little part of me wanted to see just how badly she'd mangle Emily Bronte's beloved classic. Which, as a reminder, I've now read twice, which I reviewed on this channel, if you're interested, in which I don't actually personally like all that much. I'm a Jane Eyre woman. Wuthering Heights and its dark character drama was not meant for the likes of me, shall we say, and that's okay. I more or less understand why it's a classic, but it's not the kind of story my brain vibes with. And that's that. Still, I do feel a measure of respect for it and acknowledge it as a classic, so I'm not at all in favor of it being desecrated by would-be adapters. Just like I will go to bat for any greatly beloved work of fiction I have not myself enjoyed or consumed being put through the meat grinder of Hollywood adaptations. Well, most of the time at any rate. I thus went into the Wuthering Heights movie fully expecting it to be bad, because I don't have any confidence in Emerald Fennell as a director, or I should say writer more specifically, quite frankly. She has an eye for aesthetics, I'll give her that, but that's it. My take is that she should transition to music video production because she cannot tell a story, much less explore its potential themes, for shit. Still, I'll play nice, and just as with Return to Silent Hill, start off by listing some positives. Except this time I kind of got nothing. Okay, I guess, gun to my head, I could say the music was alright. It certainly didn't fit the source material's tone or themes in the fucking slightest, and honestly, that's a given. But I guess it kind of fit what was shown on the screen, and it was decent pop music, so I'll give it that. And I guess I could also say the movie had pretty cinematography in places, that it featured a couple of somewhat aesthetically pleasing music video-like scene montages. But then, I think that's selling music videos short, quite frankly, given the storytelling and meaning present in a lot of them. And B, the simple fact is, actually no! I'm not going to give this fucking movie a point for pretty camera shots, because I'm not here to watch a series of Instagrammable montages loosely inspired by Emily Bronte's novel. I'm here to watch a movie. So moving on to the negatives, which is to say everything else about this movie, there's obviously the fact it is an atrociously bad adaptation of its source material. From the macro to the micro, this movie doesn't give the slightest shit about Wuthering Heights setting, time period, tone, character work, or theming. It's, an incredibly bloody weak and unconvincing romance, and not a gothic character drama concerned with the destructive ends of passion, revenge, classism, xenophobia, generational, familial, and spousal abuse and trauma. It entirely omits Wuthering Heights' second half, its second generation of characters, and its spookier vibes. It swaps character traits around, removes Hatton from the story, perversely transforms Isabella, a victim of domestic abuse who sees her dog murdered by Heathcliff, minor spoiler I guess, into an oh-so-horny pet play aficionado desperate for his sexual domination. Offensive? Nah, why would that be offensive? Makes Kathy even more annoying and unsympathetic than she is in the novel. But then again, in the novel, she's a freaking teenager, so there is that. And of course, it whitewashes, both physically and psychologically, good old Heathcliff, and makes him more sympathetic, but also more boring than he has any right to be. Additionally, the movie uses quotes taken directly from the novel that feel utterly unearned given its abject lack of meaningful substance. And this is gonna sound petty, but I don't care. Not a single character in this piece of trash had a Yorkshire accent. Boo! So yes, rest assured, this movie absolutely desecrates Emily Bronte's novel. And that's certainly bad enough. But it gets worse in a way, because this movie is also fucking boring. Like, if you're gonna drive the train of adaptation straight into hell, at least make it a fun ride. And that's what I kind of expected. I thought this was basically gonna be 50 Shades of Grey, which, let's all remember, wouldn't even exist without Wuthering Heights. But make it a period drama. So 50 Shades, but make it a period drama. But no, it's not even that. It's not even all that edgy, which wouldn't be good in any case, of course, but at least edgy shit can sometimes be mildly entertaining. Know what I mean? And Emerald Fennell has certainly dabbled in what I like to call edge girls shenanigans before. But again, no. Sure, there's that opening scene where a hangman pops a boner and everyone more or less teehees. Another where a stable hand puts a bridle on his lover. Oh, how risque. And that whole Isabella shtick. Yeah. And then scattered imagery involving mildly gooey substances. At one point, Kathy pokes her finger through the mouth of a jellied fish and seems to get pretty flustered in the process. Ha ha. Sure, but I mean, that's just goofy. And I'll admit, yeah, it made me laugh, which is about the only genuine emotional reaction this movie got out of me. Thing is, I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to laugh. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to take that as a metaphor for Kathy's repressed sexual desires, or whatever the fuck it was. But that's it. Like, there's no proper on-screen bonking in this bitch, much less kinky bonking. Not once did I see a man's buttocks merrily thrusting away. Hell, there's barely any nudity in it. It's kind of wild to me that the freaking 50 Shades of Grey movie, bad as it unarguably is still spicier and more entertaining than this shite. Like, come on. And look, it's not like I'm saying this movie should have gone the full Caligula route and felt barely different from porn. No, but like, Saltburn, for instance, one of Emerald Fennell's other movies, has a man thrust his erect penis into grave dirt. Know what I mean? Given that, I honestly semi-expected there'd be something, I don't know, necrophilia adjacent in this adaptation of Wuthering Heights, which ironically would have made it slightly closer in tone, if nothing else, to the actual source material. But nah, no, not a zilch. Emerald Fennell, again, this is kind of wild, couldn't even commit to the fucking bit with this one. Boo! It's the style of a substance problem all over again. This movie has no meaningful substance to speak of as an adaptation, and no meaningful substance to speak of as a generic period romance. Because it's a romance, lacking as it does the sincerity and character work needed to prop it up, wasn't organic, emotionally resonant, or just plain interesting in the slightest. And honestly, it's not like the movie's style was all that good either, even compared to Fennell's previous movies. I didn't like either of them, let's be very clear about that, but I can still acknowledge the fact they both have a distinct and at least somewhat interesting visual signature. Yes, Wuthering Heights does feature bits of pretty cinematography here and there, but overall, its style, its aesthetics in terms of environments, set design, and costuming lack any sort of visual or thematic coherence. It all felt like a fever dream more than anything else at the end of the day, and even then, I'm being generous, because an actual fever dream would probably have been less boring. So yes, if pressed, I'd have to say Return to Silent Hill was indeed the better movie, because I at least got a measure of entertainment out of it. Though, I hope it's obvious, I wouldn't actually recommend you watch either. So there you have it, my thoughts about the Return to Silent Hill and Wuthering Heights movies. I gotta stop doing this to myself, man. Anyway, I hope you found this video interesting, engaging, entertaining, or even just a chill way to pass some of your time. If you'd like to share your own thoughts, feelings, opinions, what have you about these movies, please feel free to do so in the comments down below. And on that very final note, I hope you all have a lovely day, evening, whichever time of day you prefer. Please do take good care of yourselves, and thank you for watching, and I shall see you all at some point in the next video, but until then, bye-bye.